Hello everyone, welcome once again to Trading Day. Well, the countdown is well and truly on to the deadline night, just over 48 hours remaining. And there is still a lot of deals to be done. And our Trading Day is brought to you by Matronics. And they bring us David Zeta, Josh Barnes and Jared Healy, who I know has the Matronics app. You just weren't getting the temperature right for when things get at home, Jared.
Not so much the temperature, Hutto.
Just
the leaves.
The leaves, get it clean.
My Matronics is named after Wolsey. His name's Robert. And you get your own app and you can put all the information in. This is the cleaning mode. And it was basically named after Wolsey because he used to clean up everybody on the couch all those years ago.
Well, there's a lot swimming around, pardon the pun, but David and Josh, so far only minor deals as far as the big names are concerned so far.
Yeah, only a couple of deals done today. Tyler Young is gone to West Coast from Richmond. Will Brodie swapped for pick 103. The last time we had a pick in the 100 slot was 2016 for Marley Williams. Went to Collingwood then. It's been a long time since then. So we're still waiting around. I think our talk about the Matronics is more exciting than trading.
I've got to say, though, on Will Brodie, I mean, he should have gone a couple of years ago. He can play. And I think it's a good pick-up by Port Adelaide. He fell out of favour for probably not running into defence hard enough or one of those defensive reasons all those years ago. But it's a good pick-up.
So, obviously a lot of phone calls made both from the media to various people at the club, but within clubs there's a lot going on a day like today, and obviously we would expect a fair bit to happen tomorrow, but a lot of these deals feels like are going to actually go all the way down.
I'm still not sure, because we thought you have the weekend, that's when a lot of stuff happens. Sometimes the Monday can be quite busy because clubs have gotten things together on the weekend and they officially put the trades through on Monday, but it still hasn't happened yet. So we look at names like Zach Merrett, Charlie Curnow, Rowan Marshall, all this stuff is still percolating. We're waiting to see how it plays out. So I hope that we can get some stuff happening. With all due respect to Will Brodie and Tyler Young, they're not really game changers in terms of the trade period. It looks like they're being held until, or they'll certainly be very close to deadline when it does. They finally do drop. All
right, well, let's work our way through the big names, and we know Charlie's up in Sydney and about to do a tour of, which is always a big feature of discussions, isn't it? But maybe Zach Merrett still remains the really interesting one in terms of whether an official trade request is actually made, because to me it doesn't seem like there's much point in making that request unless they know the Merrett camp and they can actually do it.
Yeah, well, generally the thought in this is that you know your destination and you know how you're going to get to your destination before you really put the chips all in when you're a superstar like this. And at the moment, we don't know how he's getting to Hawthorn. So I think that's the hold-up. I think we expected today that trade request may come through, but you're right, Hutto, I don't think he really needs to do it. I think everybody knows where he wants to go. It's just about whether Hawthorn and Essendon can actually talk turkey.
It's a very complicated issue, isn't it? Because you've got a new president who's come in trying to galvanise everybody, and he's trying to galvanise it around the captain, Zach Merrett, who we all know is a terrific player, has been for a long period of time. He's gone the hand grenade route at this stage. Whether he's asked for an official request, it doesn't matter. The dynamite was thrown, it exploded, and it's going to be a long way back. But I think if the president can, I guess, convinced him to come back, then it's a pretty good starting point about galvanising everybody.
Given the comments that have been made by just about everyone, and almost including the doorman at Essendon, that Merrett's going to stay, will they be wowed by if Hawthorn put up the right numbers? Is the consensus that they would deal or not?
I think that if the right deal, this is the same with Charlie Curnow. It's the same.
It feels different with Curnow. It feels like Curnow have always been a little bit.
Carlton has had the door more ajar. Yeah. I think even with their public comments, there's seemed to be a bit more room there to drive through. But with Zach Merrett, it's certainly been a lot more steadfast. But I still think that if the right deal comes,
what's the right deal for a Zach Merrett?
Well, you've got pick 9 that the Hawks have and then a first-round pick, a future. I think they'll need to get another club involved to try and get more draft capital to offer to Hawthorn, to offer to Essendon. I think that's where it has to sit, and I don't think Hawthorn are going to do this. They're going to come with a really good offer and just say, take it or leave it, let's go. Because they haven't been sitting on their hands this whole time. They've been trying to put the pieces together for a deal that's going to get Essendon's head turned and make them consider what they've said is not considerable.
Well, I'm with you, Hutto. The Merrett one feels more emotional than perhaps the Curnow one. The Curnow one, I think, would appear as if Carlton are resigned to the fact if the deal's there. But even if the right deal is there for Essendon, this is still, I think, a painful exercise for Essendon.
So do you think if Zach Merrett leaves, that the Essendon, it's a blow to Essendon, even if they get an amazing deal that they're able to sell to their members, this is overs for what you guys think a 30-year-old would be capable of? Do you still think that...
Oh, it's a big blow. Yeah. It's a big blow because, I mean, everybody at Essendon has galvanised around Zach Merrett for a long period of time, and he's almost been the anchor and the one the one shining light, if you like, through this really difficult period. And if he goes, and all of a sudden that shining light's not there, and they've got to really start again and find out who is the anchor of the team right now.
Let's move to Rowan Marshall, because this is fascinating. And a couple of elements of this, obviously, is he obviously wants to go to Geelong. We know Geelong originally put up the first round pick, and then that was part of the Curnow deal. The element that partially interests me a lot, actually, is the Tom De Koning discussion, because I think from what I've sort of heard is that the Tom De Koning, I think it seems pretty obvious, when the sell was made to Tom De Koning, it was that Rowan Marshall would be his co-ruckman. So it feels like St Kilda are back at that position, or are they just trying to squeeze more out of the Cats?
Yeah, well, they never wanted to lose Rowan Marshall. I think part of that was they wanted to play him forward. They know that Max King is iffy at best. His body is never really standing up at the moment. So they thought they had a small forward line. We can play Rowan Marshall as that forward/ruck, and we can work it out with De Koning. Rowan Marshall wasn't in on that plan from the start. That was the issue there.
It's a slight setback, isn't it?
But now they're kind of stuck, and they want to hold him, and they particularly want to hold players to contracts, is another thing that Ross Lyon always says. But is it going to work, Jared? Can they fit Rowan Marshall and Tom De Koning in that same 22?
They are a much better team with the two of them there. And you only have to look at the last game of footy played with the Big O and Darcy Fort. You can play two ruckmen. We're going to 5 on the bench. I think they would be negligent to let Marshall go. With 5 people now on the bench, with Big Max going to sit...
Max Heath going to Melbourne.
Max Heath going to sit under Big Max.
Big Max. Yeah,
it's going to be difficult with the Big Maxes, isn't it, at the Demons? But you need 2 rucks. I mean, they've got a young guy coming through, but with those 2 in, they look like a much better chance to be pushing up for a top 6 spot. Without him, what happens to TDK?
So the other element of that is whether Rowan wants to can be persuaded to stay, and how that will fit in with his teammates. Ben Dixon had these comments to make on Friday night on trading day.
I'd find it hard if I'm running next to a guy and he's $1 million or close to $1 million more than me. I just think from that premiership model, and we've seen and heard premiership players talk about, OK, we take unders to keep the group together. They've gone the other way and paid overs to get people in, but you've got existing core talent that have held your footy club together. That would be a hard pill to swallow.
I think it's a hard role to sell, though, to Rowan Marshall to be a forward, because the most goals he's kicked in the season is 15. He hasn't been an accomplished forward. When he's the guy, even when there was the Paddy Ryder and the 2 ruck setup, when he was the main guy in the ruck, that's when he thrived. I find it makes more sense for him, does it not, Jared, to be at Geelong, where, with all due respect to Reece Stanley, they subbed him out to the grand final when there was a bloke out there with a broken arm. You would suggest that Rowan Marshall's their number 1 guy. He wants to go there. That would be a much cleaner fit for him, wouldn't it?
Well, if he's desperate to play number 1 ruck, yes, that's the case. But unfortunately for him, he's signed a contract and he's committed to St Kilda until they allow him to walk. I still think, to Dicko's point, the players can't have it both ways. You can't say this is exciting, this is the Americanisation of the game. Well, if that's the case, this is what happens. Players come in on big money, but it's been happening for 25, 35 years. I mean, Peter Moore and Kelvin Templeton, they came to Melbourne when I was there, and your top liner in those days was probably on 40, and they came in on 100. So, but the bottom line was
gone up a little bit.
Of inflation. Yeah.
But do you want to play? Do you want to be better? Yeah. And that's what, if you want to be better and you're at a club, and blokes come in on big money, well, that's the reality. You would hope that the club help you out down the track and trying to equilibrate it a little bit. But it's been happening for 100 years.
The other thing with St Kilda, is I think they're cutting their nose off to spite their face a bit. Tom De Koning became a ruckman that you would consider offering big money to, playing as a ruck by himself when Mark Pittonet was out of the team. Yep. Now, if you're playing him with another ruck, are you stunting a $1.7 million player? You've invested a lot in this guy, and now you're only going to pay him in the ruck 65% of the time. That doesn't make sense to me either.
Well, the Cats are one of the players for Rowan Marshall, or the main player for Rowan Marshall, but they also, of course, are in for Charlie Curnow. So, Charlie, we've been waiting with bated breath at how the tour is going to go in Sydney, and I imagine it'd go pretty well because they've got a lot to show a potential player, haven't they, these days with their facilities?
Yeah, definitely. We're still waiting for him to tour, I think, Hutto, as we go there. Now, we're still waiting. Cameras are ready at the front of Sydney HQ. He's on his way at lunchtime and hasn't got there yet. I'm sure the tour will happen. There's going to be talks between Sydney and Carlton. It seems like they're the two that are going to get this deal done if it is going to be done. John Ralph reporting from the Herald Sun and Fox Footy today that Will Hayward, pick 11, and the future first is a potential framework that could turn Carlton's head. That's a player that Carlton has been interested in. Pick 11 isn't a great pick, and you imagine that future first is going to be high, that Sydney will go back up the ladder. But does that intrigue you at all, Jared?
Oh, it intrigues me. There's no question that the Swans are a better team with Curnow in it. It's a question of what you pay, and that's it's difficult to get a good player.
Give us Carlton's view on your view on how Carlton should see that deal before we talk about Sydney.
Well, if you're Carlton, you want fundamentally you want overs because you've got control of this player. So you want.
So
overs.
would you take that 2 half-decent picks and Will Hayward?
Probably not.
Right.
No. I mean, Will Hayward does want to go. This is a difficulty. I had a discussion with Jono last week about the locker room. So we've got Will Hayward, we've got James the bottomiser, Rowbottom also being in discussions. You've got Ollie Florent in discussions, being told to look around. And there's no question that the Swans would be a much better side with him in the forward line. But they could also go out and get a couple of midfielders and put Healy in the forward line. And I mean, you don't have to go too far to find evidence that it's a ground ball player's game.
So you'd do that? You'd prefer that?
I'm not saying a preference. If you can get Healy, if
Curnow.
you can get Curnow, well, you're going to grab him. But you've got to be careful what you give away. Look at the grand final last year, a couple of months ago.
Yep.
There were 30 goals kicked. How many were beat from talls? In the premiership team, there was 1.
Yeah.
It was a ground balls game. And if you look at it over the last 4 or 5 years, the ground ball has been the difference between the wins and the losses. So you've got to be careful not to be giving away too much of your ground ball strength.
Just on James Rowbottom, I saw Cal Toomey had spoken with his manager, Matt Bain, earlier today. I also spoke with Matt Bain a short time ago. He's confirmed as well that he's not going anywhere. James Rowbottom's staying. He's not part of this trade. He's steadfast that he is remaining at the Swans on the deal that he is currently on. So that won't be part of the deal. Hayward's the one that I think has got most people. Ollie Florent, it doesn't seem like he's the one that's going to move the needle.
Separate to it.
It seems like at Hayward, then pick 11, a future first. As a package, I don't know how much more Sydney could offer than that. And you wouldn't take it if you were Carlton.
Well, that's still negotiable.
Yeah.
But I nearly tore up the Swans membership today when I heard Rowbottom was being thrown up because...
You're a big Rowbottom man, aren't you?
The Rowbottomers is one of my favourite Swans players. I didn't like him when he was pushed out of the middle. And I'll just give you a comparison. Josh Dunkley was the best and fairest this year in a premiership season, and he rated 12.8. The Rowbottomiser in his best year last year, and he plays essentially the same role as Dunkley. He was third in the best and fairest, but he rated 13.5.
So these are the champion ratings. Yep.
These are the champion data ratings, player ratings that give for everything, but they take away if you stuff it up. So I think the Swans should be hugging this guy and bringing him back to the fold, and if he's in fact out of the fold, which
I don't think he's the player Carlton need anyway, as a preference anyways. So just on Sydney, because this view that they need a big name forward because of the history, you don't share that view, do you?
I don't. I think it's nonsense. I mean, if you look at it, it was important in the early days. Kappa drew so many people to the Kappa. He drew so many people to the ground. And Plugger was magnificent, drew so many people to the game. Didn't win a premiership with either player. Buddy came in, was one of the great draw cards, didn't win a premiership with Buddy. Barry Hall did get a premiership. So this nonsense that you need one from the club is ridiculous. I mean, the club has got 50,000 people turn up on a regular basis. Heaney's as big a star as any of them. So going down that because it's worked before is a bit of...
All you needed was Zeitz, with all due respect to a few of those players, and I think they deserve a bit of respect, by the way. How would the forward line look with Curnow? Does that whet your appetite, though?
See, I was interesting, Jared. You say that they don't need him from a marketing perspective, which may well be true. But from an on-field perspective, it seems like they are screaming out for a focal point up forward that they haven't been able to, either through injury or form lines, they just haven't been able to nail so far. And it feels like Dean Cox is playing with a hand tied behind his back at the moment without that genuine key forward superstar.
Well, once again, I point you to the grand final in Brisbane. Yeah. They didn't have the superstar. I mean,
but you've got to make it, don't you? That's not just about.
Well, of course you've got to make it. As I said, they are a much better side with Curnow there.
Yep.
But there are other ways to win flags than just Curnow. So you've got to be careful what you do to your locker room in trying to achieve it.
Just finally on Curnow, from a Geelong perspective, I would have thought I wouldn't be writing Geelong off yet.
Mackey's got another deal. I thought he's already put his first and final in.
Just for one thing where we see the Cats make often their deals go quite late, don't they? But it feels like if they've got another shot to fire, it's got to be a player. So there's nothing really that's emanated on that regard at this stage.
Yeah, at this stage they're pretty steadfast that no players are involved. No players want to leave and they don't want any players to leave at the same time. And they usually negotiate from a position of strength, Geelong. Usually they are the ones in charge. And as you said, those deals that go late, in the last 5 years alone, all these guys have been traded in the last 10 minutes of trade period. Bailey Smith last year, Asava Adeglia went out, Jordan Clark went out in 2021, and Jeremy Cameron came in the last seconds in 2020.
And they love a late change.
They do love
a late change.
Is it officially called Mackey time or not?
Yeah.
The last 10 minutes of the draft.
I like it, Jared.
Just quickly on Geelong, do they need Charlie Curnow or Rowan Marshall more in terms of where they're at as a football club, right? Because I would think it's Marshall.
Probably Marshall, yeah.
Positionally, it definitely is.
They've got two gun forwards as it is.
They love
Cameron and Neil.
Yeah.
Chris Scott's always loved really talented players, and it's a way to get if you want to call it a generational player into the club. He did it with Jeremy Cameron. They've done it with Bailey Smith.
And Danger.
Yeah, so
I'm sure they'd take him, Charlie Curnow, if he
clearly
came across.
And he
Which
wants to
player
go
are you
there.
giving up for Charlie?
Well, this is the thing. I feel like if you gave up someone like Shannon Neal, then you turn their head. But Geelong are adamant Shannon Neal's not going anywhere. He's got a lot of footy ahead of him. He's getting into his best years now post Tom Hawkins. It seems like he's not up for trade. So I don't know what they can play with if they're not willing to part with any of their players.
What about Jordan De Goey and this talk that's sort of been around over the last 48 hours?
It's just a name that won't stop popping up, I think, at the moment, Hutto. As far as we know, he's not interested in being traded. As far as we know, officially, Collingwood's not interested in trading him, but his name just keeps coming up when you make calls at the moment during trade week. So
when you make those calls, who are you making them to?
Come
Jerry.
sorry, I can't answer that.
Just a general sense. Is it a player manager or is
Player
it
managers, list managers, everybody. So he's
and they're throwing up his name.
Well, people, they say they're hearing things about him, but at the moment there's nothing concrete to it. So there was whispers that potentially St Kilda was interested. At the moment there's nothing to that. So right now Jordan De Goey is staying at Collingwood, but Collingwood doesn't have a pick before number 39 in the draft at the moment. So if they want to get anybody of worth in, they're going to have to play with futures or they're going to have to send someone out.
I think the Saints have certainly lent into the speculation they might have another one on the hook. Gary Owen literally said as much at the start of trade day. We've still got some shots left to fire. We've still got a few more fish out there we're trying to poach.
Yeah, and then the Aliir thing happened.
But then, with them, they're playing poker really, like every other club is, but they're really just throwing the cat amongst the pigeons.
Where's Aliir going to finish?
I still think there'd be a taker for him in Victoria. I still think, even if... I still don't know if the Saints could just try and decide they'll come back to the... I don't know. I feel like North Melbourne are the ones that are doing their due diligence.
And if they want to... That would seem to me... I know they've said they've got faith in their young defenders, but if they rate Aliir, then I would think that's a pretty obvious one for them. Christian Petracca. There seemed to be a view that, we might know something by today on this, but... certainly doesn't feel that way at the moment.
No, it seems like this, like all the other ones, could go into Wednesday. This is the one I think of all of them that we're most confident is going to get done. He'll be at the Gold Coast Suns next year.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way this deal doesn't get done.
Really?
I think
there is.
So you think that there's Christian Petracca stays at Melbourne?
Well, if they don't get what they want, then I think they would keep him. Yes.
It seems like both parties throughout this have been very open to it, and they've been very on board with the fact that this will probably happen. It's just a matter of getting the deal right.
Is Humphrey still part of the deal?
No, don't. Craig Cameron will get very upset if you bring up Bailey Humphrey's name again. So picks 7 and 8, they could be the ones that get used, and then something else as well in return. You've got Christian Petracca's hefty salary. Gold Coast would pay most of, if not all of that, and that's going to be a sticking point too. So I think that's... I would be staggered if Christian Petracca wasn't playing for Gold Coast next year. I think that gets done.
Yeah, it's 2 points they're haggling over here, really. From Gold Coast side, they're haggling over draft points because they have two studs in the top 5. So the deal is sending out 7 and 8 to get Petracca. That puts them in a bind, so they need to get something decent back there for draft points. And the second part is who pays Christian Petracca's salary. Melbourne is adamant they're not going to pay a cent because it's a different scenario to Clayton Oliver, who I'm sure we'll talk about next.
Or next, yes.
Yeah, so because Christian wants to leave, you can pay his full salary, but we're going to send Clayton to you and we might pay some of it.
You've been reading your rundown, so let's talk Clayton Oliver now.
Yeah, so again, I think this is the haggling at the moment, is how much we're going to pay, whether we pay 600,000, 500,000, 700,000, that's going to affect the draft pick return that comes from GWS. So future third-round pick has been mentioned, picks in the 40s. I think they're just discussing that, and I would be surprised if this deal doesn't get done.
Melbourne's pretty much now got a pretty weak hand here, though. They're going to almost take what they've been given because Clayton Oliver's not going back to Melbourne.
No, and they've...
So they are
Probably
dealing
said as much,
from well, the Giants are dealing
They've
from
packed
an
his bags and driven him to the
incredible position of
airport.
strength.
Yeah. What does it do for the Giants, Jared, by the way? Just Clayton Oliver. We know you love the tsunami, but what does Clayton Oliver add to that football club?
He adds another high-quality midfielder. I mean, 4 years ago, he's one of the best midfielders in the game. He's dropped off that perch and the game may be slightly different, but he needs to work on his hands. His kicking's never going to be an A-grade part of his game, but that's the same with a number of players. But if he becomes a distributor, he's just got to work in how do they get the balance right with him and Tom Green. But he's a fantastic player still, I think, in front of him. He's got fantastic seasons in front of him. And the Giants have got a great record rehabbing players that have lost their way.
Jai Simpkin feels like a difficult one. What do we think?
Well, it seems like their asking price, from what we hear, is just too steep. I mean, Collingwood's not going to give 2 first-round picks for Jai Simpkin, even if... And he's got obviously a pretty hefty salary he's on as well. That could come into the equation there. But if he wanted interest, it doesn't seem like he's getting much of it at the moment. So it doesn't... But again, this isn't a situation where it's become untenable and if he was to come back, it would be awkward. This is just something that's been bubbling away as a possibility and just doesn't seem like there's been enough interest, and certainly not enough interest at that price range from a draft perspective.
Well, his problem is if you don't demand a spot in the midfield of the side on the bottom of the ladder, well, it's hard to see how you can demand a huge transfer fee.
On big money too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because he's playing at a weak club, so he's being paid probably overs what he would have been playing at most other clubs. And then you've got, how do you get the deal done as well if a club like Collingwood, as we've already talked about, just doesn't have those resources?
Yeah, and I'm not sure they're really investing time in getting those resources for Jai Simpkin. And he's the kind of player that's a free hit. You get him if you have the pick and it works out for you. I don't think they are working around the clock to get ready to get him. And I think North Melbourne, they want to keep him as a captain. He's a good leader, that's all that sort of stuff. But realistically, on that salary, I think they should be happy to let him go.
Nick Larkey said, we spoke to him last week about where things sat, and he said he'd be fine if Jai. It seems like players are a lot more okay with this than they potentially would have used to have been, Jared. You can go back into the club and walk back in and everything's okay, it seems like. With this particular case, at least, Jai Simpkin.
I've never seen any player refuse a good player coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to play with the best team, and if Jai goes and suggests he wants to move and doesn't work out, I'm sure he'd be welcome back. Whether he's welcome back as captain, I think would be questionable.
Similar but different, Jack Steele. Does that feel like that's not much going to happen?
Yeah, I think he was never part of the plans to leave St Kilda, so I think that's the problem there. You have to go to market and find someone if you're told to explore your options, as they always say. I don't think he's done much exploring. I think Essendon was interested. I don't think they're that interested in him now, and I think he wants to play for St Kilda going forward, and I think he would enjoy not being the captain. So as difficult as it's been, I think he might walk away from this as a winner.
Connor Buderick, it does feel like this will happen from the Suns to the Bulldogs. It might just wait a little bit on what happens with Jamarra as to when it happens, but it feels like it will happen.
It seems like, I said there was the pick swap today, the Bulldogs getting picks 14 and 37, the Giants getting back pick 12. Now, most of the reporting out there would suggest that 37 would at least be linked in some way to Connor Buderick and get him to the club. That they've said publicly that they like what Connor Buderick brings, his ability to defend, his speed, his willingness to put his body on the line, probably all that stuff that Luke Beveridge loves in his players. That would be someone that they would be getting through. So it seems like that one would get done, and that pick that came across today would be a big part of it.
Playing back or forward?
Well, it's Luke Beveridge, so we don't. He could play ruck. I don't know, but you would imagine.
Not bad for you, Zeke.
Thank you. You would imagine he'd be in the back line.
Back is where he wants to play.
Okay.
All right, well, still more to discuss, and of course, it all leads to the deadline day and deadline night, just over 48 hours away. All the big names we've been discussing. We'll have our big names: Sarah Jones, Kingy, Joey, Ralphie, and Zeeks has made the team for a huge night, 7 p.m.
Used to me.
Well, trading day concludes Wednesday. You'll see all that on Fox, and then all the focus turns to the AFL draft, where names selected become household names in season 2026. It's a life-changing night for the kids and for their families as they get the chance to become AFL footballers and live out their childhood dreams. It's all live and exclusive on Fox Footy across 2 nights, November 19 and 20 from Marvel Stadium. All right, well, let's put Jamarra Ugle-Hagan on the menu and just have a bit of a broader discussion about it. It seems like if the due diligence is done, that this deal will go ahead. Do you think it should from a Gold Coast point of view, Jared?
Well, I think Gold Coast are the club in the competition that needs him least. So if they get him for nothing, they want to take advantage and put him up, somebody's going to miss out in that team. They've got some heavyweights already. I mean, Jed Wilder is a heavyweight. He's only a kid learning the trade. So too's Ethan Reid. But you just wonder whether or not where he fits in or where they all fit in. And if they're not all fitting in, then somebody falls off the perch. Now, I know there's going to be 5 interchange next year, so how Damien's sort of trying to, come up with a plan to use them all is going to be interesting to watch. It does appear as if he's going to get there, though.
It looks that way. Obviously, there's a lot with the contract. It'd be extraordinary to have a look at this contract once it's done, but there'll be a lot of stipulations in there. But it seems like it's all heading towards him getting there. It just might take a bit of time with the amount of due diligence that's being done and the fact that this will be a pretty unique contract to draw up.
So you said the least. Is that a positional point of view? You think they've got enough stocks there already?
Of course they have. I mean, they've got enormous.
So why are they doing it? Why would they?
I don't know the answer to that. Maybe they think somebody's going to fall off the perch.
Well, Ben King is still out of contract into the year after. So.
Okay, so maybe it's insurance for that to happen. Maybe they think they can fit them all in and one goes through the bench. I'm not sure. But as far as having tall stocks is concerned, there's not a club in the land that's better suited.
All right, going to be a big day tomorrow, or do you reckon all the drama is Wednesday?
I would say 95% of the drama will be Wednesday.
Have you sorted out your deceleration?
It's looking sensational. As will the show be tomorrow. Jared's back and the team. Plenty is going to happen, and you'll see it all on trading day over the next 48 hours.